Okay, today we're going to work on 9.3, solving quadratic equations. When we graph a parabola, we sometimes do not go through the x-axis. If my parabola does not go through the x-axis, I have no solution. If my parabola is on, the max or the min is on my x-axis, so this is my x-axis here, right, and this is my y. So my one point that is on would be considered my solution. So I'd have one solution if my max or min point is on my x-axis. Now, if my parabola goes through the x-axis, like this last one, I have two solutions. So the solution of a quadratic equation is where the parabola crosses our x-axis. So the x-intercepts of the parabola. So they're sometimes called the roots of the equation or the zeros. If I want to solve by finding the square root. The opposite of squaring something, if I want to isolate my variable n, is taking the square root. So I would take the square root of both sides of this problem, and then n would be plus or minus 9. So this specific problem would have two solutions. So that would be a parabola that goes through my x-axis and intersects my x-axis at two different points. So if I look at the next one, I would add 32 to both sides. So 2r squared equals 32. Divide by 2. R squared would be 16. And then I could take the square root of both sides. So r would be plus or minus 4. So that means that parabola intersects my x-axis at positive and negative 4. Now let's look at the next one. If I add 36 to both sides, okay, I would have w squared equals negative 64 plus 36. So negative 64 plus 36 is negative 28. And I cannot take the square root of a negative number. So I know that this answer is going to be no solution. Okay, that means my parabola does not cross the x-axis on that problem if I were to graph it. Now we're going to look at these. And on this one, they want you to solve by graphing. And there is a way to do this in your graphing calculator, which is a little bit complicated when we are not in person to do. And I know not everybody has a graphing calculator. So we're going to use Desmos for these. So my first problem is x squared minus 9 equals 0. So if I were to go to my Desmos, okay. Oop. So I have this first equation in here, x squared minus 9 equals 0. And now on my graph, I could move my graph. Okay, so this is where I cross my x-axis right here and right here. So I have two solutions. So my solution is negative 3 and 3. Because the x value, remember the ordered pair, an ordered pair goes x and then y. So for this particular problem, my answer is positive or negative 3. Okay, so my next problem is x squared plus 5 equals 5. So if I were to, I want to first make this into y equals, or I want to make it into equals 0. So I'm going to minus 5 from both sides. So now I would have x squared equals 0. So if I have x squared equals 0, I'm going to graph it like that. And then right here we see that my x value when I'm on the x-axis is 0. So my solution to that problem would be 0. And it would be one solution. But now x squared plus 7 equals 0, and that's already set equal to 0, so I don't need to do anything to change it. So x squared plus 7. Now, this parabola does not go through my x-axis, so it's going to be no solution. And we'll go back to that. I'm just going to show you that one more time. This parabola right here, you notice this is my x-axis right here, and my parabola does not cross my x-axis, so it's no solution.